Hi class, it's Dr. Linder. Welcome. In this next video, we're going to be looking at and learning about the cardiovascular system. So let's take a look at the heart first. Now, the heart is a four-chamber muscular pump. It represents the center of the cardiovascular system. So when we say cardiovascular, cardio is the heart, and vascular refers to the blood vessels, the other arteries, the veins. Now, when we say it's a four-chamber muscular pump, very simply put, watch what I'm going to do here. Now, you'll notice that this heart does not look very symmetrical, right? If we look at the right-hand side compared to the left-hand side, if I were to ask you which side of the heart looks bigger, you'd say, well, the left-hand side, and the right-hand side looks smaller. Now, yes, I understand this is our reading left, and I understand that this is our reading right, but when we're looking at anatomy and anatomical position, the person's facing us, so this is their right side, and this is their left side. Four chambers, one, two, three, four. The upper chambers are called atria or atrium, and the bottom chambers are called ventricles. So atria or atrium. Okay, atrium, ventricles. One, two, three, four. The right-hand side is not quite as large. The left-hand side is much larger and thicker than the right, and we will get into the understanding of why that is. Let's look at where the heart is located first. So the heart is about the size of our fist, and its location is above the diaphragm, right? It's superior surface of the diaphragm. It's to the left of the midline. It's in front of the vertebral column, but it's behind the sternum. So when we look at all that, that location is referred to as the mediastinum. Okay, it's between the two lungs, behind the sternum, but in front of the spine. Between the two lungs, behind the sternum, but in front of the spine, and superior to this muscle called the diaphragm. And it is slightly to the left of midline. And the apex of the heart is certainly to the left of midline. Now, what I'd like for you to see and to understand here is the general flow and the general concept here. In this picture, we're looking at the heart in the center, and we're looking at the lungs. So the heart is trying to pump blood to the lungs. Well, what type of blood is the heart trying to pump to the lung? But then we also see that there are blood vessels going from the lung back into the heart. Okay. Now, if we look at the right-hand side of the heart, we will notice that the color of the blood here is different than the color of the blood on the left side of the heart. The color on the right is blue, the color on the left is red. Well, what is the color ink in your printer that's blue? Don't we call that cyano? That's the blue ink in printers, cyano. Cyano means blue. When someone drowns in a pool and they pull them out, what color are their lips? What color are their fingernails? Blue. Cyano, they're blue. Why are they blue? because the right-hand side has deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated means the blood does not carry oxygen. So it makes sense that the right-hand side of the heart wants to pump blood into the lungs so that when you breathe air in and the air goes into the lungs, you're breathing in oxygen. The lungs transfer that oxygen to the red blood cells that are here. It then moves that oxygenated blood into the left-hand side of the heart. And the left-hand side now receives the oxygenated blood, and that oxygenated blood is pumped from the left side of the heart out into major blood vessels to pump the oxygenated blood up into the head, the neck, arms, and then it goes down and it's going to pump it down to the abdomen and the lower extremity. So do you see the general concept here? The general concept is eventually, when all of that blood is pumped up to the head and the neck and the arms, and it goes down and it goes to the abdomen and the legs, eventually all the oxygen is dumped into the muscles and the organs because the oxygen is going to be used by the mitochondria of the cell to produce ATP or energy. But once the oxygen is used, now the blood is deoxygenated. So that deoxygenated blood from the legs and the feet and the abdomen has to find a way into this large blood vessel called the inferior vena cava. And if there's an inferior vena cava, there has to be a superior vena cava, a superior vena cava. So when all the deoxygenated blood from the head, neck, and arms, it has to find a way back into the right atrium. From the lower part into the inferior vena cava, all the deoxygenated blood has to go into the right atrium. Then eventually, when all the deoxygenated blood is here, into the right ventricle, up into the pulmonary trunk, into the lungs, picks up oxygen, drives into the left side of the heart, and the left ventricle pumps it up into the arch of the aorta and pumps the deoxygenated blood to all the systems of the body. So this left-hand side of the heart is called pulmonic circulation, and the right-hand side of the heart is called systemic circulation because it's going to pump it to all the systems. Pulmonic means pulmonary, it's only pumping it to the lungs. So now you can understand if the left-hand side of the heart has the job of pumping all this blood to all the systems of the body, it's no wonder the left-hand side is larger and thicker in musculature. It's got a much, much bigger job to do. Okay, so when I come back, I will go over the flow of blood through the heart. We will review what I had just briefly mentioned. I had briefly mentioned systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. We'll go over that in more detail when I come back.